Welcome back to Tag Up with LT. I'm your host, LT. Today's podcast guest is Shalece Daniels, who is an expert in managing and investing rental properties. Shalece works with individuals on how to get started with real estate investing with her Section 8 insider formula she's created. We talk about cap rate, funding partners, and the challenges to property management. I learned a lot in this episode, and Shalece is a wealth of knowledge, resourceful, and even offers wraparound services to her tenants as well. Enjoy. Well, hello. Welcome to the podcast, Shalece. How are you?
Hey there, LT. I'm awesome. So happy to finally be here.
I know. I'm so glad we connected through our little online networking group.
Yeah.
But I'm excited because I know that you have quite a bit of experience in managing and investing rental properties here in the Detroit area specifically, correct?
Specifically, yeah, I'd say 97% of my portfolio is Detroit.
So talk to me a little bit how you got into this type of work specifically.
So basically, it fell in my lap. I would say when I was 18 years old, there was a lady who was offering this. You could earn $5,000 on each house and become a landlord, and it's guaranteed money through Section 8 and so on and so forth. And my brother introduced me to her. And I thought it was too good to be true, but she was having a seminar on how she does this, and people were talking about how they've done it, and they made $5,000 per property, and they were the property owners. Well, that was around the time that we were able, like anything with the PUL, was able to get a loan because of the predatory lending practices. So I was one of those folks that did invest at that time. And I got 2 houses. And after my second house, I figured out that I could do this on my own. And I could do it for much cheaper than the amount of money or mortgage that I had. And I started doing it then. I was about 19.
Did you grow up in a rental
Yeah.
property yourself?
So I'll give you a little bit about my background. I never, ever even thought about owning a house because we didn't own a house when I was little. We owned a house, I think, when I was 16 years old, but everything told me that you were going to be 50 or 60 years old before you owned your house, because that's what you did. Like, you rented, you moved from place to place. You got a little better each time and a little better each time, a little better each time. So when that opportunity came about with those, you can own 5 homes, I was actually renting an apartment and owning those homes that were Section 8 tenanted. Yeah, home ownership was never, ever something, and investing, absolutely not, was
Right.
something that I thought that I would do.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I don't think I owned my first home until my I don't even know, mid 30s. You know what I'm saying?
Well, that's
It
normal
was
now.
and my mom would be like, well, it's the American dream to own your own home. I'm like, is it though? The amount of work it is, and the financial responsibility, and I knew one day I would own a home,
Yeah.
but I just, yeah, I mean, there's something to say about owning your own property and all of that good stuff, but it's not cheap.
It's not at all. If you're not making money off of it.
Yeah.
I know I've listened to so many of your podcasts, and I know that you are compassionate and so on and so forth. Listen, I am about money and I'm compassionate as well. But if you're not making money, just like you said, your home is a liability, period.
Yeah.
If you're not making money off of your primary residence, which we can do all the time now, it's a liability. So owning a home isn't so scary when you can calculate and you know that you're going to make money off of it. Even if you're renting yourself, you can still own an income property.
How do we get started? For somebody who's out there who has no clue of what it entails as far as investing in rental properties. I mean, I'm pretty novice to it as well, but what would be some of the bare minimum things that someone can get started to ensure that, whatever passive income they're trying to get to through a rental property comes to fruition, right? I mean, you want to see a good return on your investment, but what are some the bare necessities to kind of get started with things?
LT, this is going to sound so cliche-ish. I know. Oh my gosh. The first thing I say, the second thing I say is going to hit, but the first thing I say is, first, you have to start calling yourself a real estate investor. is mindset. You have to first believe that you're going to do it and say, I am a real estate investor. But the second piece, if you don't have a stash of cash laying around or an IRA that you can self-direct, and I can talk a little bit more about the self-directed IRA as well, then you want to start looking for banks that you can create a relationship with that are willing to give you funding. That comes through relationships. Sure, you can use hard money, you can do crowdfunding, you can find someone to fund you, but in the very beginning, when you don't have a lot of experience and you don't know whether or not you're going to sell this property in 30 days, 45 days, 60 days, or especially if you plan on making it a rental property, which is my specialty, you absolutely want to start building relationships as quickly as possible with lending institutions. I know a few to be pretty good at it. One is Navy Federal Credit Union. Another one that we like is Diversified Members Credit Union, or DMCU. And then Level One just merged with First Merchants, and these are local banks, Level One and DMCU. They just merged with First Merchants. You want to create a relationship with them. There are two folks over there that I really, really like. And this is if you're in the Detroit area. So I'm talking to you Detroiters. Erica Powers, that's one, or Scott Falconer, that's another one. You can tell them Shalece sent you, and then they'll know exactly what to do and exactly what you're looking for. But start creating those relationships with your funding partners. That's step number one.
That's good advice. When I think about investing, I'm always thinking about like, what is my percentage of return on investment, especially like with my 401k. Oh my God, don't even look. Don't even look, girl, because it's like so bad. I was like, wait, what? Where's my money going with the market?
You just hit such a I'm itching. They can't see me on camera, but I used to work at Comcast.
Right,
So it was
right.
okay.
That's
and I didn't have that much money. That's my background. I was a sales trainer, travel all over the nation, training folks. And then COVID hit and they made me sit behind this screen doing what you do. And I was like, oh no, I can't do this. This is for the birds. So, so I jumped head first back into my investment. However, let me say this. I lost $21,878 and like 68 cents is some like really funny number that rhymes. From January of 2022 through October of 2022. And guess how much money I had in there in the beginning? Like 170. To have 170 something thousand or 150 and lose 21,000 of that, that's huge.
Yeah.
I didn't have a big position. I wasn't able to. So, but I had to put that in there, which is why I snatched every bit of the rest of my money out and I put it into a self-directed IRA. And I knew we would circle back to that.
Cool. Let's walk through that.
So the first step is to create your relationship with your funding partners. That's how you get into it. First Merchants Bank, Erica or Scott over there. And then you got Navy Federal Credit Union. I have a few other folks too, but I kind of hold them close to my cup. But if you work with
we don't want you to share all of your secrets today, right. We just want to dangle a carrot and let's see what happens.
And then the second piece is, as we know, the millennials, we usually work a job for 5 years or so, and then we move and we work and we move up, we work, we move up. We have all these pockets of money sitting around because we've invested in a 401k or in an IRA or in a Roth. All of those pockets of money, you can roll over fee-free into a self-directed fund. In this self-directed fund, you can buy real estate. Now, you can't touch that money as a profit if you're going to manage your own money as a real estate investment. So what you're doing essentially is you're taking your money out of the hands of the folks that are sitting behind the desks and pushing buttons and telling your money what to do and losing $21,878 and some odd cents in 9 months. You're taking it out of their control and you're putting it in your control. And if you're managing it in a real estate parcel or real estate investment vehicle, I feel a lot better with that. Real estate is the own real estate. It's not a piece of paper. It's not Walmart saying, oh, you have this many shares. It is a hardcore piece of something that you can feel, touch, and sometimes smell. The greatest. But it's something that you can absolutely do. And I highly recommend it. You got to have a fiduciary. And I know a few really, really good fiduciaries, but you want to make sure that take control of your money.
Yeah, it's almost like there's investing from like in fiduciary or stocks or whatever, and then there's like actual tangible, like the rental properties and stuff, like kind of two different things, but the same, right? If you will. Ish.
I agree with you wholeheartedly.
I'm not a
Um,
financial major here.
No, neither am I. That's the good thing. That's the beauty of it. I tell people all the time, I suck at mental math,
Yeah.
but I can make a return because you asked something about the ROI earlier, and I think I
Yeah.
answered the wrong question about how much money I had lost. So, you asked something about ROI,
Yeah, like
and
what is our return on investment if we were to do this type of thing, especially for somebody that's never done it? Like myself, like I have no clue, like am I talking like a 3% return on my money or am I talking like 20%, which I know is insane, right?
20% is insane, but it's absolutely doable. In fact, I have returns as big as I would say 32%. We as real estate investors, we usually call it a cap rate. But for those who are not financially literate or they're not investors, we can just call it the ROI. So your return on investment, you put 45,000 into it, I would say, what you will get back is your 32%. My number my drop bottom 3-bedroom, 1-bathroom, Detroit brick home bungalow in a great neighborhood is 90,000. At 90,000, you will still get a 15 to 18% cap rate or ROI, if you will. And that is slamming, no bank, definitely the market, like you said, is not returning those returns. And it's based on your rent. And they're going up because I've seen the numbers for 2023. The amount that the Section 8 agencies are paying for rent is going up tremendously.
It's just like,
I know you're shaking your head. They can't see you, right?
I know. I'm just thinking to myself, like how expensive it is, and then even now the interest rates are increasing as well. It's a risky type of business, if you will, right? But if you're willing to take the risk, the return on investment or whatever, could be pretty lucrative if you do it right and smart.
I have this formula. I call it the Section 8 Insider Formula.
I'm not really sure what the formula is, but I'm like interested in learning a little bit about it.
So there is several things. There are several pieces that go into this puzzle of being successful as a Section 8 real estate investor. One would be buying the right property and understanding the formula to buy the property. It's a lot easier than you think. And if you have that 90K number in your head, you just go down from there. The second piece is making sure that you attract the right tenants. If you attract the right tenants using the right formula and screen them properly, you will get people that will stay in your property because everyone knows that vacancies are not good. Not having someone to help you pay that mortgage, if that's what you have, it's not good. The third piece is nurturing your relationships with the Section 8, with the public housing agencies or the Section 8 agencies. They're going to keep the relationships. They're your advocate. They'll keep the relationships between you and your tenants running smoothly. And they'll also lay tenants in your lap for other homes that you have that are available. And the last piece will be that tenant retention. So you already have the tenant, you nurture the relationship with Section 8, and now you have to retain the tenant because the cost difference between losing a tenant or someone moving every year is tremendous. I just put together like this calculator formula and it costs about between 5,000 and 7,000 average to flip or to turn a property every year if the tenant moves every year. Whereas if you retain them, it costs you maybe between $700 and $1,500 of an upgrade every year to the property. So I think saving money is making money. Like Benjamin Franklin said, a penny saved is a penny earned. So you're making that net. And so I pulled out my calculator right now. If I'm not spending that $7,000,
he's actually showing a calculator.
Right,
I am right now.
If I'm not spending that $7,000 and instead I'm going to go on the high road and I'm saying I'm spending $1,500, that means that I just made $5,500 additional every year that I didn't have to turn that property. So the tenant nurture piece is one of the most important parts. And then so maintenance goes in there, and then also having the right general contractor right in the beginning. These are all things that I teach a shortcut to.
For somebody out there is like, I don't have time to nurture these relationships and stuff like that, or you give this great like kind of 4 point of your formula and stuff like that. Is that something that you also handle as well as far as managing the properties? How does that work?
Okay.
Like I don't have any time, you know what I'm
Hmm.
saying? Like how do I know my
Absolutely.
tenants are paying on time and making sure I'm collecting my rent from them, and more or less like those detailed of those logistics of how like things kind of flow to ensure that you're getting everything's paid on time and so on and so forth. Is that like a challenge or struggle?
Traditionally, yes, it would be if you didn't have a property management company. Fortunately for me, for our company, I only take certain clients now.
Mm.
So I'm very, very, very selective with the clients that I take. But for those who may be what I would consider like new investors, one time, two time, I show you how to manage your property management company. So one,
Okay.
I introduce you to a few property managers that I highly, highly recommend and have
Gotcha.
had success with. And then
Hmm.
I show you how to manage that relationship to make sure that you're getting what you're supposed to be getting.
Cool. So you have something in place for somebody who might be a fish out of water in terms of like that
Absolutely.
whole piece of that puzzle. It's not only investing all of you, not all, but a lot of your money, buying a house, flipping it, and then renting it out, and then
Yeah.
somebody managing it could be overwhelming for somebody like myself that knows nothing about that type
Yep.
of industry. You know what I'm saying? So that's good to know. How long have you been doing this specifically? Like, I know, you have a really great relationship with your husband and you guys are like
Mhm.
this fabulous team and stuff like that. So,
I would say 20 years, but
okay,
solidly since 2017.
gotcha.
Now, remember, I was still double dipping. I was still working. I was still
That's
in
right.
and out with Comcast. I had a very flexible, the position was great. Comcast was great before the pandemic. So a phenomenal job. I was able to do both. And then I would say I've been knee deep since 2020, December of 2020. I have been knee deep in hiring people, improving our processes and systems, and just refining what we know, what we thought we knew,
Hmm.
avoiding mistakes, figuring out ways to make us better, which is ultimately going to make other folks better. I have a book coming out and I still haven't, I think by the time I talked to you, I was going back and forth between some titles of the book. I'm still going back and forth. I don't know. I
Yeah.
might even throw it out there to my social media following.
Do a poll on
Find
LinkedIn.
out. Yeah.
I
Hey.
love a poll on LinkedIn.
Okay, that's what I'm going to do, a poll on LinkedIn. I also have a course and I began to offer some one-on-one mentorship
Yeah.
because as people started hearing about the book, they were like, no, I want you to hold my hand. I want it one-on-one. And so I was like, okay, this is in high demand. So pause for a second, create an offer in which people can actually get to know this, come out in the field and go for it. But I did create a mini preview field day that I am going to offer again in the spring because it's cold in Detroit. So on this coming Saturday the 17th, yeah, I'll take you out for a couple hours. We'll talk strategy. We'll meet some general contractors, and we'll have breakfast at the DAC, and then we'll break. But
That's cool.
I'm taking three cohorts
Uh-huh.
out on Saturday. You'll ride with me, and you'll just see what I do on a day-to-day basis. But it'll be packed into that 2 hour schedule. You get to figure out, okay, is this something that I want to do?
I love that. I think that's like a really good introduction of like boots on the ground. You know what I'm
It
saying? Of
is.
just seeing like everything it entails and encompasses. And then it's up to that person to decide, yes, this is something I want to do. Or
Yeah,
no,
yeah.
this is
Do
not what I want to do.
I not at all?
You
Or
know?
do I want to hire somebody else to do this for me? Because when you hire your management company, you can see what they're going to do. I think that's important to see behind the curtain.
Mm-hmm.
What is it that they're going to do for me and what's right and what's not quite right so that you can, even if you're not doing it, you can put your finger on it and say, no, this doesn't go like that. Actually, I want it to go this way because there's always more than one way to skin a fish. I don't know. I need another saying,
Right.
but there's always
I
more
don't
than one
either.
way to skin a fish. And I think you should know the way that your business is being run, and each house is a business.
No, that's cool. So how
Yeah,
many properties do you have now
we
in your
manage.
portfolio? Are you manage?
Yep,
How many?
manage 238 units, but
Wow.
for mine, I think our is about 140 now or 138.
That's a lot. Are you
Yeah.
working on flipping any homes right now in Detroit?
I am. am. That is funny. I have
How many
one.
homes? Do you have one right now?
Oh, okay. So I was going to talk about my personal projects, but then also for those clients that I have.
Gotcha.
I think I'm in the process of flipping three myself, my
Gotcha.
project. But then I have 20, about 20 that I'm working on in the management company. Lots of properties to choose from.
Yeah. How do you keep that all organized? I mean, what kind of systems do you have in place?
We use something called AppFolio. AppFolio, I wouldn't recommend for someone that has less than 50 properties, but if you're out there and you have more than 50 properties, listen up. If you don't know about AppFolio, please go save your life and use AppFolio, okay? If you're someone that has a few properties, you can manage them on your own, or you can, like, meaning they can call you, or you have an email or text system. And then there are some free sites out there, and I can't remember the names. They're not coming up right away, but I know I've written them down in my property management toolkit. That's for sure. I can't think of the names, but if you Google search like someone who wants the free management software, it really worked for a few people that I took through my mentorship program.
That's awesome. I'm thinking you just whip out an Excel, and be like, a project plan, Microsoft project plan, just whip it out. Like, okay, what key milestones do I have,
No, they pay. You have a dashboard, like they can pay online. They can submit their maintenance requests online. And this is even on the free version. And they'll rank them for you through Apple, through Google. They'll rank them.
Cool.
A friend of mine gave her tenants a bank card to Bank of America. They will give you a bank card where your tenant can go in. It looks like an ATM card, and then put their cash or check or whatever right in the ATM every month, and then you're done. And that's for those who may have a 1, 2, 3, 4, and they don't use a property management program.
Okay, so there's a lot of flexibility there.
So listen, we've told your folks all about all the good stuff, right? There's bad shit that can happen when you are like, I don't want anyone to be confused, like, oh, this is great. Take all of our money, go talk to their husband or whoever.
Right.
Take all of our money out and put it right.
It's Christmas. I got a new investment opportunity, honey. Yeah. What's some of the bad stuff that people may need to be aware of, or more risky things?
Sure thing. So there is such a thing as people trashing your property. I still find it worth it with the cap rates or your ROI. There was just recently, we had someone who was seeing impaired, and she moved out of the property, and the property looked like someone that was seeing impaired had it. And things were all over the place. Normally, maybe a trash out would be $600. We're going to end up paying probably $4,000 just for the trash out.
What's a trash out?
Oh, yeah. Okay. Sorry.
There's like a whole language here.
Thank you for saying that.
Is that like turning over the property and just cleaning it?
It's just cleaning it. Just the cleaning part.
Yeah.
Just going in and taking things out that they left. However, listen up, everybody. If you own any properties right now, here's how we do it. We actually pay the tenant to clean out their stuff. And it's cheaper usually than a trash out. So it's a couple things. If they're moving and their lease has ended and they're going, we'll give them a couple $100 if the house is broom swept, clean. And many tenants, it doesn't matter. They leave some things around, like things that they don't want, a bed that was broken or a TV that they're no longer using. Give them a couple $100. They're going to clean all that stuff up, and it's almost going to be ready to move back into, minus a few repairs. That cuts down on your cost of actually turning the property over. So it goes from your $5,000 to $7,000 amount to maybe closer to $3,000. Because all you're doing is painting and changing some blinds. It's a really cool technique.
Yeah, that's a great incentive for somebody to like.
You're paying me to move that I was already going to do. Yeah, I'm just paying you to take the few things that you have. Yes. Right.
It's a nice incentive. I love that. So we talked about, the trash out type of situation, but what other negative things?
They can stop paying. Now, what some people don't realize is Section 8 doesn't mean that it's guaranteed 100%. Okay, that you're going to get 100% of your money. You actually, the tenant has a portion, and the portion that they have to pay can be quite large. So my rent is $1,500, 3-bedroom, 1-bathroom bungalow in Detroit. They might have their portion maybe $800. I just accepted a tenant whose portion was $800. You're only getting $700 from the agency. If you're only getting $700 from the agency, the tenant goes behind by 3 months. That's $2,400 that you didn't get. You may have to evict that tenant because they're not paying their portion, even though you're getting the $700 from the agency. That happens. We've had it happen a numerous amount of times. Now, what happened is during COVID, we were able to get SARA, CERA. It was like a something emergency relief fund, and it was for rental emergency relief fund or something like that. We were able to get that, and we were able to collect majority of the monies that were owed to us. But that is a risk that you take. Just because you have a Section 8 tenant, Laura, it doesn't mean that you'll never have to evict. It's not true.
Yeah.
So trashing the property, and I would say that has only happened 3 times. We manage a lot of parcels. 3 times.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
In the grand scheme of things, that's like nothing compared to all the
nothing.
properties.
It's nothing.
Yeah.
But evictions are a thing. Evictions are a thing.
Do
Also,
you take these people to court, or like do you just kick them out, and their
love it.
belongings?
I love it. Thank you for asking me. Usually we do something called we give them money to leave. Again, this is another good reason to give them money to leave. You avoid the eviction process. The eviction process can be costly. One, it can be costly because you're not being paid while you're going through the eviction process. So every month you're missing that, let's say that 3 months, 4 months, $2,400 to $3,200, $3,200. Plus, you're paying your attorney. Plus, you're paying the bailiff to lock them out.
Yeah.
Plus, you're paying someone else because you can't trash it out yourself. The bailiff has to trash it out. I think they usually charge between $700 to $1,000. You're paying someone else to trash it out. In my book, I go into detail like, hey, this happened, and here are the numbers that we spent on this one. This happened, and here are the numbers we spent on this one. This happened, right? And then I show you how to avoid that with our cash relocation incentive.
Gotcha.
And you can pay something as small as, for the landlords that are out there, you can pay something as small as $500 to help them transition, because what it's doing is, one, is allowing them to keep their dignity intact. They don't get a judgment on their credit report, because we check for past evictions. So they don't get an eviction on their credit report. So they feel good about helping to and moving their family. And clearly something happened if they weren't able to pay their rent.
Right.
They're already
of course.
on Section 8.
Yeah.
So something must have happened.
Yeah.
And now you're letting them move with their integrity intact, and you're giving the money. And guess what else? That whole broom swept thing, that applies. I don't cut this check to you unless all the utilities are paid and I have those last bills and the property is broom swept, such that I can almost move another person in right after you. Now we've paid more than that. We pay $1,500, $2,500.
Yeah.
And it depends on the situation and how quickly they can move. So if they've had a death in the family, the person living there, like, what's $500 gonna do for that? Or if they've had their car was wrecked and they don't have a car and they didn't have full coverage insurance. We know insurance in Michigan. What's $500 gonna do? So yeah, we definitely we think about the situation, and it still saves us from the eviction process and the loss of rent. So it's a win-win, definitely a win-win.
And that car insurance in Detroit too. Holy shit. My God.
LT, it's ridiculous. Being in the lower socioeconomic level is so expensive. So fucking expensive.
I mean, I don't know, but I mean, yeah, that's
know
what I hear,
What you just said makes so much sense. And if so many others could just put those things together, I think we'd have a slightly better world.
Yeah.
You get a flat tire, which causes this. I missed a day of work. Well, they're going to fire me because my kid got sick because they have asthma. You think about these different things that wrap around and it wasn't hard for me to think because I grew up like that. So it's easy for me to put these support and wraparound services to understand the perspective, to have relationships with Wayne Metro, so that all I have to do is send an email. I went into a house yesterday and I was inspecting, because we do a 6-month inspection. Everyone, hey, do a 6-month inspection on your properties.
That's smart.
Okay. You do a 6-month inspection on the properties. I went in to inspect, and the lady's utilities had been cut off 10 minutes before I got there. So utilities, I mean gas and lights, had been cut off 10 minutes before I got there. So I walked in and I'm like, hey, how are you? Sucky was the word that she used. And then I was able to connect her with someone from Wayne Metro to get her balance paid for.
Wow, that's amazing.
So this is, again, I say it's not just about money. It's about doing well while you're doing good. So yes, you do get more money. When you get guaranteed money, and usually the rents are higher, but you also have to be prepared, like being a teacher. in the Detroit public schools. Be prepared to provide these wraparound services or resources for the wraparound services, because that's the population in which we serve.
That's beautiful.
We also provide a path to home ownership. I wish that I could talk more about that. I won't, because I think we're at our time. I don't know where we are, but for some of the properties you want to look into, if you decide to do Section 8 FSS, it's family self-sufficiency. It is a path to home ownership, and it is one of the greatest things that the Department of HUD came up with for the population in which we serve.
That's great. Well, this is very informative. I feel like I learned a lot today. Thank you for sharing all of your gifts and services and everything you have to offer. Where can people find you?
ShaleceDaniels.com. ShaleceDaniels.com. I am on Instagram at Shalece D. You spell my name SHALECE and then D as in Daniels. You can also go to ShaleceDaniels.com/join. And what I'm doing is, for all the folk that are signing up on the email list there, I'm going to offer my free calculator to calculate the ROI / the cap rate on the properties that you would buy. So you can put in a certain cost, you put in the amount of rent, and then you'll have the cap rate. On the bottom of this calculator, I'm going to give you a net worth calculator, so that you can see, if you have this many properties over the next 5 years, how much should they grow, be based on the Detroit growth rate. It's really cool.
Very cool. All right. Well, thank you so much for coming on my podcast. I appreciate it.
Thank you, LT, for having me.
Thank you so much for listening to another episode of Tag Up with LT. I hope you enjoyed the conversation just as much as I did. And if you could be so kind to rate and leave a review on your preferred streaming service, or share this episode with someone you know who would love it, I would greatly appreciate it. In the meantime, keep connecting, getting inspired, and have fun discovering a life in alignment. You can follow me on Instagram at TagUpWithLT, or my website, tagupwithlt.com. See you next week.